everyone. So it is planting season and we've actually started planting about a couple weeks ago. We have done some beans and some corn, but I wanted to show our planter off a little more before we saw it in action. So we have a 6-row 30-inch Kinsey corn planter. Like I said, we've done beans and corn so far, not everything done. We don't usually plant beans. Last year we didn't plant any, but the year before we did, and we ended up just selling those as a cash crop. But this year we are putting in high oleic beans, and our plan with that is to actually feed it to our cows. And they're actually a food grade bean. So if we plant it, we have to feed them to our cows. We can't sell it for a cash crop. So we are trying to kind of eliminate our protein bill a little bit more, and hopefully with the beans that we planted, it kind of helps with that, but we'll see. And we have to, I'm pretty sure we just have to roast the beans once we harvest them, but I'll keep you updated on that. And then as for our corn, I think about half of it, if not 3/4, is planted by now. All I see is that we have some LG bags here, and then besides LG, we've also planted a lot of Pioneer, some Bex, and some Inogen corn. So other than that, that's all I see. And then, so here it is. We have our dry fertilizer boxes up there, and that's the auger for it to run into them. And then this is where our seed would go, and the bigger one back there. And then this is our insecticide boxes. And we do use insecticide, but just mainly on our corn on corn ground. So that would be, we're planting corn this year on a cornfield that was corn last year, if that makes sense. But the main strategy for using insecticide is just to kind of get a handle on the corn rootworm beetles. They are an issue in southwest Wisconsin and even further up into Wisconsin and even neighboring states. So this is one method that we use to try and kind of eliminate or even just lower the population, because they are such a nuisance. They start off as little worms in the ground once they hatch, and then once they hatch, they start nibbling on the corn's roots. That's how it gets its name, obviously. And then obviously the roots are very important for the corn plant. And then once they hatch, they come out of the ground, and there are beetles, and then they fly around and they'll eat the silks off where the corn would grow. And obviously that's a very important stage because that's how it gets pollinated. But yeah, so that's why we use insecticide, but we don't use insecticide. We don't put it down on our corn on sod. So we do have some of that, and we can actually go look at that, because I just checked that corn yesterday and it was not up, and I checked it today actually and it is up, and I just think that's crazy how fast it's up. And I think that's been, what, a week? So I guess that's probably about average. And then all of our corn and beans that have been planted so far have had a pre-emergence spray put on to help kill any weeds that would be coming up, so the corn doesn't have to compete, or the plants don't have to compete with those weeds for nutrients and water and all that kind of stuff. So that's just kind of a little bit of an overview of our planter, what we plant, why we use insecticide. And I do want to use some corn rootworm traps later this summer, so you guys can kind of see what they look like, and like how big the population is. And hopefully the insecticide is working and kind of lowering those. And we're also planting beans to help for a rotation, to help get rid of that, so we don't have to use insecticide. Because corn rootworm beetles only affect corn. So it doesn't affect hay, it doesn't affect soybeans. So the more that we can utilize other crops for a rotation, the more that we don't have to use insecticide or anything like that to help control those pesky insects. What I guess I shouldn't be talking. So here is our corn that I was just saying, just popped up. If we're gonna be technical, this would be the VE stage for emergence for our corn. But it's just crazy. We just looked at it yesterday. I didn't think there was any out of the ground, and now all of them, or I shouldn't say all, but you can see a lot of them are up out of the ground. And then you can see that 30-inch rows. There's one row, and then over here there's another row. Just nuts. And then this is what would be our corn on sod. And sod's just referring to that it was alfalfa, not a grain crop last year. And since there's a hay strip below it, then there was on the other side of we have a field road here. On the other side, that is also corn on sod, but it's surrounded by hay. There is corn below it, which should have been a corn on corn, I guess. So the chances that there are rootworm up here are smaller. I'm not gonna say none, but because they could have migrated up and laid eggs up here, but I'm saying that's small, but still a chance. But I just wanted to show you it. Crazy. So this is the corn that was planted on May 7th, and today is May 20th. Not looking too bad, it's looking pretty good. Even where he drove, the corn's popping up pretty well. I mean, it's gonna be a little bit behind just because it's more compacted, but otherwise, it's looking pretty good. Not sure what the population is. Guess I could check, but. So this is our ryegrass. We planted this last fall as a cover crop, and we plan to harvest it for feed. And it's actually like it's mature now, which isn't what we wanted. We wanted to cut this before it started to, we call this head, before it started to get this mature, before like the actual oat, or that's not oats, before the actual grain part came up, because then it loses its feed value. The more mature it is, the less feed value there is. But I just wanted to show you this because once we harvest it, we plan to come in here and I think we're gonna plant corn. I thought we were gonna put beans down, but I'll have to keep you updated on that and see what we really do. But if it looks weird, that's because it got flattened. We just had, I'm not really gonna say it's a storm, but we got like an inch and a half of rain. Yeah, that must have been windy. I mean, you can kind of see it. We're on a ridge top, so there's gonna be more wind. But yeah, it's absolutely flattened. Like I'm standing in it right now. So not the most ideal. We have it over here too, but this will have to get harvested soon. Kind of sucks because we are still planting, so we'll have to take time to do that, and maybe even I'll cut it. You'll get some footage of that, but we'll see. Dad will probably cut it or somebody, but I'll still get you some footage of that. See how we use things here. Show you scenery. But yeah, cover crop, gonna get harvested, and then we are gonna plant into it, and then come in and spray it so that it can't grow anymore. But that is the plan. So some of our corn is having a hard time getting through the soil. Like, we call this kind of crusting, but the soil's not really all that hard. Like, it's not super dry. Like right there you can kind of see one. Where's my, right here, and then over here right there, and then that right there, and there, and that little guy is just kind of poking out right there. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, a lot of the corn is up. I feel like it should be a little bit further along, but I don't know if we're gonna get our harrow, or not our harrow, our hoe, rotary hoe out, and kind of go through here just to kind of loosen up the soil, or I don't know. Like, if you stay down here, you can, like, this is a really good row. So maybe it's just not that big of a deal. Maybe it's just right here. Like this little guy, just kind of peeking through now. But yeah. So we did decide to get the hoe out just because we are really concerned that the corn, that a lot of it's not gonna come up because of the crust. So we got the hoe out, and just right now I'm working on cleaning this trash out of in between the wheels here. I got quite a bit of it out already, but I'm just finishing the other ones up. So I was sent out today to look at some fields that we ended up hoeing yesterday, and the purpose of that was to soften up the ground a little bit and put some indentations into the ground and just really loosen it up and flick the ground up, and I'll show you that. But it was really important for us to do that because the ground was getting so hard and crusty on top that our corn was having a hard time poking through that. There's so many gnats bothering me. And some of that corn was actually growing underneath the soil, and that's an issue. So we came in, did that, and there's actually some good spots I want to show you how hoeing helped. I always want to say harrowing. Hoeing. but overall did a pretty decent job. Sometimes if the ground's a bit too hard, it doesn't really do much. And in some areas it kind of looks like that, but overall I think it did a decent job. So this is what it turned out to look like. But then like right here, I don't know if the ground's just like that hard or if he just didn't get over far enough. But there are indentations, which right here is fine because this is exactly the issue that we were having. This plant was having such a hard time getting out of the ground, and it's kind of that yellow. But because he went through and he loosened it up right there and right here, it's giving these corn plants a chance. And that's our entire point of this. Corn's expensive. We can't afford to have it not grow. So right here you can see that there are 2 cornfields, but there's a split right here. That's the field border. And this field got planted earlier, and then it got rained on, and then the soil dried out basically, or just the top layer. That's how you got that crust. And this field was planted after the rain, and then it got worked with the finisher and then planted. So it allowed it to kind of dry a little more before the seed went in the ground, because this is a lot more of a fluffier dirt. So this field should be okay. But you can just totally see the difference between the 2 fields. Here's just another spot that I think is a really good example of what the harrow accomplished. You can see there's a bunch of corn here that I don't think would have made it if we didn't use the hoe. Like, look at this plant here compared to that one over there and these ones. Right here is just a perfect example of what we were trying to accomplish. So this is a corn plant that I just dug through the soil to see if it was there, because there was just a open space. Like, there should have been a plant there, but you couldn't see one, so I dug through. And when I say like it looks like it's growing under the ground, that's because like this is what it looks like. See, you have a leaf there, like that would be that, and it's yellow and just it should be out of the ground obviously, but it's growing within the ground. So overall, I think the hoe did a fairly decent job. I'm not gonna say it saved all the plants just because it still has a long ways to go yet, the plant itself, but we will see. I am probably come out here fairly often just to check up on it. Okay, maybe not fairly often, but often enough just to see how it's doing. But like I said, corn's a very expensive input, and this is what we feed our cows with, so we need it to grow. And by doing this, I think we gave a lot of corn a chance. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that it grows and we get a good crop out of it. But I guess only time will tell for that.